This is the DOYO R808 steering wheel. It comes with 3 pedals and a manual H-pattern shifter. It does not have force feedback, but does include dual rumble motors. At first glance, it doesn't appear to offer anything new or exciting. In fact, it is a basic setup. However, this wheel does have a special feature, and that is versatility of platform compatibility, supporting PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. And that is interesting, and something that could be an attractive feature for some gamers. First, we're going to take a close look at the product on my table, go through the features, and then we'll move on to the testing and evaluation. The construction is hard plastic, the width diameter of the rim is 25 centimeters, the overall build quality is solid enough. I did not experience any flexing or creaking in use. The physical wheel rotation is 1080 degrees, however the steering angle input can be adjusted on the fly, and I'll show you how to do this later in the video. Spring resistance recenters the wheel. As I mentioned at the top of the video, this is not a force feedback wheel. Instead, dual motors provide a vibration effect like a gamepad controller. There's a door hatch in the back of the base where the USB cable is stored. Inside the cavity, you'll find the sockets for plugging in the pedals and the shifter. The shifter has 6 gears plus reverse. The operation and feel is very similar to the Logitech driving force shifter. For the reverse gear, you press down on the gear knob and then into 6th gear, and the gear lever is pushed into a lower ledge. Essentially the same mechanism that the Logitech driving force shifter uses for reverse gear 2. As we have a manual shifter, we also need a clutch, so we do get a full pedal set. It is odd though that the clutch pedal is separated from the gas and the brake. There's no benefit here, in fact it's more of a negative as we have additional cable clutter to deal with, and the lightweight clutch pedal platform is likely to slide around. Otherwise they are a functional basic set of pedals that do the job as intended. Let me draw your attention to the manual, and feel free to pause the video and read some of these instructions. Details are packed in, but mostly in rather over-explained, convoluted paragraphs that you'll need to read more than once to fully understand. I recommend you take a highlighter and circle the important bits that you'll likely want to refer to later on, as it is a cumbersome exercise trying to find things within the mess of details. PC users will need to download some drivers, and they haven't made things easy here. The URL is a ridiculously long string of characters. I also checked whether DOYO had a support page on their website with this link. They do not, so you'll need to type this all in. So don't lose that manual. We're going to start things off with some PC gaming. The DOYO wheel has 2 modes of compatibility on Windows: Direct Input and Xinput. Direct Input is the standard input format for wheelbases in general, so we're using that here in Wreckfest, and it's working just fine. The wheel is providing accurate control when the rumble motors are vibrating. The vibrations are not very strong. In fact, it's actually a little bit disappointing really, as the sensation is weak compared to a gamepad controller rumble motors, but it's still better than nothing. The other mode, Xinput, this is what PC gamepad controllers use, and this does pose an interesting use for the DOYO wheel. Not all arcade racing games support direct input steering wheels, but will support gamepad controllers. So what we can do is swap over to Xinput, and then the game will recognise this steering wheel as a gamepad. So instead of steering with an analog stick, we can use a proper steering wheel in games that would otherwise not support one. This is a demonstration of using Xinput, and the DOYO wheel is emulating gamepad analog steering, and it does work. In fact, the wheel buttons are mapped to the equivalent gamepad buttons, and the pedals are recognised as the analog triggers on a gamepad. So our DOYO wheel is pretending to be a gamepad controller. Yes, it does the job, it works. Unfortunately, this is not a perfect solution. Study the motion of the steering wheel and the movement of the car. What you should be able to notice is there is a dead zone around the centre position and not much steering input into the game as we rotate off centre until we get closer to the edge of the full range of steering input, where it suddenly becomes very sensitive. The reason for this is because racing games tune the analog stick control input like this on purpose to make it easier to drive. This non-linear operation helps when manoeuvring cars with an analog stick, but that doesn't work with a steering wheel. The DOYO wheel is technically locked one-to-one to the analog stick movement, which sounds sensible, but the racing game steering is non-linear using that analog stick, so that's why we get this problem. This makes steering awkward and unnatural. It's very easy to understeer or oversteer and feel disconnected from your steering to the turning movement of the car. This is a huge flaw, and for me it's a game-breaking experience. I'm unable to control the car consistently. It's basically useless. Okay, so on PC, just run the DOYO wheel in direct input mode and run it as a regular steering wheel in games that support steering wheels, and that's generally fine as most of the best racing games do support a steering wheel. The saga doesn't end there though. Running the DOYO wheel on a console displays exactly the same steering problem, and I'll show you this next. I will say setting up the wheel with my Xbox 360 was super easy. As directed by the manual, I plugged my wired Xbox 360 controller into the back of the DOYO wheel, and then the DOYO wheel plugs into the console, and that's the setup completed. Very simple. As before, the driving is frustrating and difficult. The biggest selling point of the DOYO is the unique blanket coverage of multi-system compatibility. And on paper that does sound great, but this feature is nullified by that steering problem. Now, could you get used to this? Personally, I didn't, and I don't think I can, but maybe you can. But at least you know what you're getting into if you do plan to buy this wheel. I can't recommend the DOYO R808 as a steering wheel for consoles. Either stick with a gamepad or buy a steering wheel with proper verified console wheel support. So look at the range of entry-level Logitech and Thrustmaster steering wheels out there. Sure, you won't get the same versatility of compatibility across several systems, but that is still your best option, and they are proper force feedback wheels, and that's much better too. So really, the DOYO R808 is only suited for PC racing games, and it's certainly a usable device for that purpose. And it's okay, but nothing special. The best feature of the setup is the shifter. It's surprisingly solid and decent, and seems kind of out of place against the rest of the setup. So the console support, in my opinion, is almost useless, and I can't put forward any other reason to consider this product. We're left with merely a basic PC steering wheel featuring rumble motors, and the rumble from those motors is quite feeble. The DOYO R808 is a waste of money and isn't fully fit for purpose. It's not good enough. Avoid. Before we end this one, I should also tell you that my wheelbase has malfunctioned and is permanently stuck in Xinput mode. I'm unable to switch back to direct input. I also tried the wheel reset option and that was to no avail. So my DOYO R808 has failed just after a few hours of testing, and another reason to avoid this product. And that's it for this one, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I'll be back soon with something new. So until next time, happy simming and bye bye.